What's up, guys? All right. How you doing? My name is Tyree Byndom. I go by the Paladon. I'm one of the members of Black Demographics with my dude, brilliant founder, Akeem Deshay. He's the brains behind the operation, and I'm the brawn. So we teamed up, and this is kind of what we're doing. Today we're going to actually talk about. We're going to actually get into it and talk about Black marriage. And we was looking through the statistics and we found some interesting information. We wanted to share it with you guys and go from there. Now, we know that this is our first time ever going live. We've done it individually, but for the Black Demographic brand, this is our first time going live. So thank you so much. Share, invite, share it on your wall. But this video will be available, and we'll be doing this more because the reason for Black Demographics, one of the things that we say is that we're your blueprint for Black America. And so what we do is we see a lot of the data, a lot of the statistics, and normally that shows what we're dealing with collectively and in different areas, different cities. And so hey, Stuart. And so, we want to kind of just stay aware and start offering more. And basically, after 10 years, we want to show how you look at the data and how you make that work for you. And so that's kind of what we've been doing. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to pull up the information here. And if you actually go to the page, you'll see. But I'm going to pull up the information that I have set up. And so if you could, just make sure you click share, like, and we'll get started. Trying to find the file that I was looking for. One of the other things that we wanted to share is that over the course of the next few weeks, we'll be actually rebranding Black Demographics. We got a new logo, website, and a lot of the stuff. Really, we just listened to a lot of your views, a lot of the things that you shared, and incorporated that, and we're going to make it into a business. We did it for the last decade as a labor of love. We did it somewhat to make money, but really it was a passion for our founder, Akeem Deshay. And what he wanted to do was make sure that the statistics and information was available. So let's get into it. First of all, we're going to start with sharing just some information about Black marriage. When you look at and you hear from the media and the news, and just even in our communities about Black marriage, what do you hear normally? What do you hear? You hear that there's 72% single Black female. That there's 9% of single Black male. Then you hear that there's 2 to 3% of second-time parents, so the grandparents are now taking care of their children, their grandchildren as guardians, as their main, as their guardians. So, you have all of these statistics. So when you add it up and you look at Black marriage, we have 90%. 90% is single parent households. How do you get that? How do we get to be in that place? And so, marriage is when you find someone, that means a lot to you. You make this choice that you want to create a union. It's been there since the beginning, between man and woman. So it's been there. Adam and Eve, before Eve, Adam had Lilith. Adam had a wife before Eve. Y'all, I don't know if y'all remember that. And him and Lilith didn't get along, so he was divorcee. So, marriage back then, who could you marry? You could marry your sisters, and then, as they became more, as we've grown and moved across the world, in different ways, sometimes through conquest, sometimes through slavery. The institute of marriage has evolved and went with us. And so, what is the blessing of that? I remember when I was a young man, the last thing I was looking to do was get married. But one of the things that I think I was blessed because, I had a single mom and she was incredible. I don't know how she did it. I don't know how any of us do it. But one of the things that she embedded in me was that you find someone that you can build with. And she always looked for that. And so I've always looked for the one that's going to help you create a union, to help you build something. The Institute of Marriage. Some people consider marriage to be a man-made institution. And some people consider it to be and sometimes, many times, there's a mix. Because when it comes to the divine, so when it comes to the government structure for, the home and environment and city that you were born into, you didn't choose those things. So the only choice that you have is sometimes your mate. Used to be that they had arranged marriages and you didn't get a chance to choose even at that time. So, so marriage is interesting, to say the least. So, when you find someone, 54% of people that get married get divorced. And they get married again, and then 60% of those marriages last. So, there's a lot that's connected to the Institute of Marriage. So when we were looking in the data, me and Akeem, for you guys don't know, you've never seen our faces, but we both post a lot, and you can hear our different styles when we speak. I'm more, he's just really about the data, and he'll share the facts. And I'll go there with you. I'll have a conversation. It doesn't matter. My thing is to try to advance and continue to have a greater understanding. Sometimes we clash. Clashing is good. As long as we respect each other. Even if we don't respect each other, sometimes, how many times have you met a bully that didn't respect you, that treated you bad? You checked them, y'all fought, and then afterwards that became best friend. And I think, when you know that you can't get over on someone, when you know that you can't bully someone, it lets you see eye to eye. So a lot of the conversations we have, we don't try to censor. We want you guys to go in, be passionate, but also respect each other. Try to. And the only thing we'll say is, be nice. I know you type in the computer, and we don't want to be internet trolls. God looking at you. So what Akeem found is in the data, when looking at Black marriage, that ultimately the Black family has been decimated and targeted. And there's been so many things that were really, there's 46 million African Americans. Really, when you add all African Americans up, there's about 50 million of us in the United States, out of the roughly 12 to 15% out of everyone. And so when you add in a lot of people who forgot they're Black, who have assimilated, and they realize that they're Black later, they're still a part of the fold, but they're just in different places. They're still Black. So you got Black, and then you got subcultures. But when we looked in the data for Black marriage, we saw a lot of things, and we're still going to be diving into it. So let's jump in. We'll share the top. I'll share the bottom 10 cities that where by percentage of marriage, Black African American, age 15 and older in a metropolis or in metropolitan areas with Black population at least over 50,000. So that's what we're going to cover. So these are the bottom 10 cities that over 50,000, 15 and up, and in really metro areas. So number one on the bottom is Dayton, Ohio. Dayton, Ohio is 26% of that population is actually married. The next one is Chicago, Illinois. Only 25% of Black in the Black family, 15 and up, only 25% are married. 75% single. Okay. The next one is Detroit, Michigan. These are the bottom 10. Detroit, Michigan is only 24% married. Isn't that something? For a city, the Chicago, Detroit cities, this big, 24%. The next one is Cleveland, Ohio. 24% marriages in Cleveland. Next, we'll go to Albany, New York. Albany, New York is right at 24%. And also next is Rochester, Rochester, New York. 24%. So that means 24% population, 50,000 and up, 15 and under, well, 15 and ages 15 and older, married Black African American. In those areas, only 24% are married. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania next at 23%. 23%. Pittsburgh. After Pittsburgh, going in at number 7, we got Buffalo, New York is at 23%. Buffalo. Anybody in Buffalo? And you guys should be able to click like, heart, make sure you share so others can get in the conversation. And you can make comments. I'll start right there. Make a comment and jump in and participate. Number 9, which the bottom cities in the United States were marriage statistics, based on marriage statistics, is Toledo, Ohio. So in Toledo, it's 23%. Now, the bottom city, you've heard a lot in the news lately, and you've seen a lot of issues when it comes to this particular city. The bottom city for Black marriage is Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at 21%. So only 21% of the population, 15 and up, who are Black or African American, only 21% of that population is married. So marriages just don't last in that place. Now, for some of the ones on the bottom, this is really a discussion for you guys might live in these cities, you might be there. So, feel free to chime in and let us know on some of the challenges that you face, because one of the things that we're going to try to do is actually look at each city, talk about each city, look at the history, and offer some solutions. Some of the things that we've seen myself, some of the things that I've done is actually help cities to advance, to do urban planning. My background is in human resource management. So, I've been in this my whole life. I've been part of the struggle my whole life. I've never had a chance to take off or time out, none of that. Retire. When you love community, when you serve community, that's just a part of who you are and what you do. So that's the bottom 10. Now we're going to go to the top 10. But before I switch, just look. So we got Dayton, Ohio, Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Albany, New York, Rochester, New York, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, New York. I thought we'd be doing better in Buffalo. Toledo, Ohio, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin are the bottom 10 cities for Black marriages. So if you're looking to get married and go start your family and do something, you might not want to go to those places. Or those might be places to go and change, to go and create change. But looking at Chicago, Detroit, really we know some of the what's called chocolate cities. the violent crime, after Jim Crow. So really slavery, people moved, came to the north, tried to get better, get on. A lot of those cities were the economic centers, like Black Wall Street was decimated, targeted, curtailed. The effort was, during the Black Power movement, they took out the factories and they moved into jails, military industrial complex, prison industrial complex, imperialism, colonialism. All of these processes throw drugs into the neighborhoods to try to target what? The number one commodity, 13th Amendment, Black lives. They ultimately, the Black family is decimated and annulled. The offspring, 9 times out of 10, is going to come into the system, and they're going to derive value and benefit from that life. Whether you sit in the jail to stimulate an economy for a whole city, for a whole metro, a whole area, 12% of the population. But when you look at a lot of these cities, 90% of the prison population, and 90% just of our small number. And so, what's not talked about is that when you look at European culture, a lot of their brothers and sisters are being, in that same trap that was created for us. And so they're there. So let's go to the top 10, because that's there. That's going to be there. It's ancient. We've been dealing with it for a while. A lot of people are looking for solutions. A lot of people think, they have solutions. A lot of people don't know. I've had many people ask, what do we do? How do we change it? What do we do? That's like the main question. I know historically that we've had things in our community. When we had a village, many times when we had a village, we were able to not only get by, but thrive. After our economic centers in these areas were targeted, it was hard to get back, with lack of capital, with, lack of cultural understanding. You look in the schools, you look in the curriculum, you really don't see us. And so you really don't see a reason for young Black and brown people, to stay in that environment instead of leave, get knowledge of self on their own, start their lives, and not worry about that. Really, when you look at a lot of these communities, Chicago, I got friends and family in Chicago. When you look at a lot of these cities, they can step out of their household, learn how to participate in the underground economy, yet you won't see one of them know how to create their own business in a viable manner. That's a setup. That's designed that way. And then when you look at how the marriage, a lot of people say the Willie Lynch letters, where in 1712, Willie Lynch shared a letter of how you train and break your slaves. Because most of us were slaves, and even the history is very convoluted. It's hard to know what is what. On the Black Demographics Facebook page, we have a 4,000 years of our history, so check that out. Akeem did that as a labor of love, and we got some other stuff that we're going to be doing as well. But looking at that is incredible. So, just looking at the processes that's in place. So let's go to the top 10. Now I'm gonna start at number 10, and these are the cities that really Black marriage are thriving. With the bottom, the lowest one, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at 21%. So 21% of that population is married. So I don't know about you guys, but man, it's hard to do it alone. Now, it's not saying that they don't have companionship. It's just saying that they're married. So you might have a lot of people shagging up, being companions, being together, and just making it, surviving. I mean, we're going to survive. We're going to eat no matter what. We got to eat. You can't tell your kids, you know what, we don't have a lack of opportunity, so I can't eat. They'll be looking at you like, huh? And then you'll force them to go and try to do it themselves. And someone will recruit them and love and nurture into them that doesn't have the best interest in mind. So top 10. First, we're going to start with Riverside, San Bernardino, California. I've been to Riverside. It's a beautiful community. It's incredible. It's schools is top notch. The social environment is great. It's a lot of good stuff in Riverside. 33% of Black people that live in that area are married. Next, we'll go with 33% also. And I was really interested that this was 33%. And that's the DFW, or Dallas-Fort Worth. That's where I'm at right now. So Dallas, DFW, 33% of all Black people are married. I thought it would be more. I really thought that it would be more, because a lot of, I'm married. So me and my wife, a lot of our friends are married. And so we have a lot of friends, big social circle, a lot of them married. But looking at the numbers, there's a lot that's not. So there's a lot of us that are looking, what is marriage? Marriage is when you're looking for that person, that union. And I think ultimately, I think that we've done a terrible job of explaining the benefits of marriage. Seems like it's like more of a chore instead of what it is. And you're right. You have to be mature. There's different levels, because ultimately you're going to find somebody to match where you're at. Now, I've seen sometimes where the women, and I ain't trying to be funny, but the women, I'll ask women in conversations that I've had, what do you want in a man or a mate? And so they share this whole long list and all these things, these bells and whistles and all this stuff, man. And I'd be like, I said, you want him to be good already? I said, you want him to be, Norman, what's up, man? You want him to be perfect already. I said, ain't nobody perfect but Jesus. Don't nobody have a resume like that. And if he do, he's probably married. He probably had a wife who chiseled and invested into him to make him like that. So, we have to be willing to put in the work. Like, my wife dressed me. When she met me, she was like, you know what? And I used to ask, I was like, are you trying to change me? And she'd be like, no. She was like, well, a little bit. So she wouldn't do it. She'd go buy me some clothes. You want to change somebody? Just show them love. Go buy them something. Like, here's a wardrobe for you. Because I dress like I dress, And if something's wrong with that, if your woman is dressed in a certain way and you don't like it, go to the store, drop a couple of stacks and be like, here, honey, she will put it on. I promise you. So Dallas-Fort Worth, 33%. Next is Raleigh, North Carolina. There's a lot of people that are moving to that area. There was the original Black Wall Street that was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but in Raleigh is the other original Black Wall Street, and they're doing well. I mean, they're doing fabulous. They're under the radar. I have some friends of mine that live in that area, Durham, Raleigh, just a few different cities. So 33% of all Black people in Raleigh are married. Next, we got Orlando, Florida. So Orlando, historically, when we look at Orlando, way down, beautiful area. They got it going on. It's a lot of beauty. Now, the economics in the area, just by being in the bigger city, it's better, but there's still some challenges. So each community, when we look at our community, we can make a list of the top 100 things that we face as challenge. And ultimately, every single city and community is dealing with the same stuff, but in different degrees. That's the way you drink your water, right? in different degrees. So we're dealing with the same stuff collectively, but many times, guess what? We're not sharing. We're not sharing our experience. We're letting those that want to oppress us be the ones that help us connect. You know, we couldn't read for a couple of 100 years. Remember that? Frederick Douglass? Frederick Douglass is adopted, well, his slave owner. The wife taught him to read one day. The husband caught her and said, why are you teaching that man to read? If you teach that, well, not man, that boy, why are you teaching that boy to read? If you teach that boy to read, you'll ruin him. You'll ruin him. And we'd never be able to enslave him. And he was hearing the conversation. But he had already learned what he got. He already learned a few words. And he made that move. Next up is Denver, Colorado. Denver, 34%. 34% of Black people in Denver are married. And, you know, Denver is I got a good friend of mine, Jason Bailey, some family that live in Denver. They went there. And, you know, you think that it's cold. And, you know, Denver got a winter just like everybody else. They just got an extra month of winter. But it's still a beautiful community. And they're still doing some big things. Down there, they got 5 points. So each of these communities have a rich, vibrant history of Black history. And you know what? Black history, when you think about it, Black history is so important because when you are a part of the majority, and your history and culture and heritage is actually that. It's heritage. It's not something that you share. It's like your history and that you have to preserve because you're living it. So when we talk about Black history, what it does, it basically puts it in the mirror. It lets you be able to see it a different way that normally you would not have seen it because you're immersed and assimilated into the majority culture. When a lot of those individuals, when you talk about white, white. If you're German, you know, 53% of Americans are German descent. That ain't white. That's pale. It's not white. You know, you got 14% that's Italian. That's morphed into whiteness. And even though they're from, you know, Europe, still ain't white. At one point, you were considered an outsider. Polish, the Danish, Norway, Russian. They consider Russians white? How about Indian? How about Asian? At one time, you know, locked up the Japanese, locked up so, you know, no one wants to be oppressed. No one wants to be oppressed, man. Nobody wants that stress. And stress is something that is a constant on this list. The stress. No one wants to be oppressed. And so you assimilate. You assimilate into the major culture so that you can take off your armor. So you can, you know, don't have to always be shook. So, you can't blame people that assimilate. We got names for them to categorize them, but you can't blame them. I remember I talked to this young lady and she said, you know, I just wish I was white. I said, I understand. I understand you. I said, but why? Why would you wish that you're something else? And she was like, well, you know, they just have it going on. They got this. I was like, you know, it's a whole bunch of poor white people too, right? 90% of people on welfare and they get benefits are white. A lot of the poorest counties is white, right? You know, but also said, you know, all the main first civilizations were Black. And They learned civilization from us. You get it? So you can't want to be like someone that wanted to be like you. But they don't teach that, because if they taught that, then we would be free mentally from the current slavery, which is mental slavery. Mental slavery is what we see in our communities now. It used to be chattel, political, when you couldn't vote. There's 5 different types of slavery. There's chattel, political, there's the mental, there's economic, and then there's another one I won't tell you, and that's religious. And when those entities work together to keep a people enslaved, it's called imperialism. Normally, your slave keeper, or normally your oppressor, is you will speak their language. What language do we speak? But they don't say it. Ain't that right, Norman? What language do we speak? What language am I speaking to you now? English. It's deep. The original imperialism started from England. They got others, like Britain and others, to do the bidding, to spread colonialism, which wasn't imperialism. They sold them something different to use. It's almost like democracy. The United States really tries to sell democracy, but really we are and we're just not finding out. We are really plutocracy, which is governed by the wealthy. Barack just kind of slid in because he had them Jewish boys that was doing that work. And he had Chris Hughes from Facebook, and they caught him off guard because of social media. But that's neither here nor there. Let me dive back in. We could talk about that forever, but knowledge itself. So Denver. Next up is Seattle, Washington, number 5. Seattle, Washington is, Seattle is wet. But other than that, Seattle is an incredible community, 34%. Now they're dealing with gentrification. Now gentrification is, let me break it down. The gentrification are the gentry. The gentry are the kids of wealthy people. They don't have ancient money, but they got inheritance. The people who have an inheritance, who start your life off not with a silver spoon, but with 6 digits, at least 6 digits in the bank account. You are the gentry. You are the highborn. You are they've passed it down to you. You're the next. Now, every child is not going to get the same inheritance. So not every child is the gentry. So the gentry are those wealthy kids. They call them hipsters. Now they got hipsters from helpsters, which is what they used to call us back in the Harlem Renaissance. So they're copying off us and trying to go and find, and it always happens. When we get something good and we get it popping, that's just the way things work. When it's popping and goes mainstream, they flock to it. And they come to it and mess it up because there's the powers that be that don't want racism, which is what got rid of Jim Crow. That's why y'all lost your village, because the little kids want the party, and the honkies. I'm gonna say that honky came from, and Dick Gregory, rest of peace, said this. He said they called them honkies because they used to go to the black neighborhood and they would just honk, trying to pick up prostitutes. So that's why they call them honkies, right? They want that black, like the master did, which is a big reason why slavery, why marriage is so off, because it was broken. In the Billy Lynch letters, they talk about how the family structure was broken. You take the strongest, put them in jail. You break them, put them in jail. Take the other ones and show that you can't count on the strongest. Then you take the woman and break them and say you can't count on the man. And you take the light skin and the dark skin, you push them against each other. So you make the light skin be like Jane Elliott. You are the haves and you're the have-nots. And will accept you, but you we're going to demagogue to pit you against each other so that you're divided, so we don't have to continue to keep using effort to do so and to put our hands on it. You'll do it yourself because we trained you. We've broken you. It's like when you break a horse and then the horse becomes domestic. We are domesticated Negroes. But we're greater than that. So Seattle, Washington. And so the gentry, you got the political landscape, the musical landscape, you got some great stuff that's happening. Thanks, Norman, man. Appreciate you being there. Great stuff that's happening in Seattle. Number 5. Number 4 is Washington, D.C. 35%. You got a lot of black folk in Washington, D.C. The White House is there, but really there's a lot of black folk there. You know, and it's an incredible city. You can't even, it's not even a city, really. It was something that was created and built. And, you know, we will never know in our lifetimes the amount of underground facilities, the security, airspace, the surveillance, the technology that's utilized all over the city. I mean, it's incredible. Now, there's a lot of challenges with that. And that community has to navigate and work in a different way in order to be successful. And I think all of us, you know, like I said, when you look at all the challenges, all of us deal with the same thing, but there's different levels and different stages. And what's happening is, again, we're not sharing. We don't have a central mechanism to share that knowledge and information. Black Lives Matter, other movements have come and gone and are doing good things to try to get some type of collectivity. But normally, whenever collective happens, you know, there's a threat against that. There's a threat against that because it will bring knowledge of self. Knowledge of self will bring what those that fear us rising up think that we'll come and annihilate them. And they probably should be annihilated, but because we are, but because we answer to a higher creator in big numbers, that's not something that we necessarily want to do. I don't see a lot of people plotting on how to take down the man, no matter what your color is. We just don't want the man to keep discriminating against and curtailing our efforts to thrive, pursue happiness, and take care of our families. That's it, right? So Washington, D.C. Number 3 is San Antonio, Texas, at 35%. San Antonio. Now, San Antonio is I think 40% Hispanic, 45%, 40% European descent, and then the rest Black, Indian, indigenous, good mix. So beautiful community. You got the Spurs, you got commerce, you got a lot of things happening, but it's also a big country city. It's rural, and they say it proudly. You know, we country. You know, we love it. We Texas. Everything's big in Texas. So San Antonio. This next one is a pretty incredible city. It's one of the areas that also had a huge economic center. You know, a lot of people flocked to it because of it, and that's Fayetteville, North Carolina. Is number 2 when it comes to Black marriage. So 36% of all Black people in Fayetteville are married. I think they got some things that they're doing, you know, in a wonderful way. You know, they have there's a lot of collectivity within the religious community. There's a good economic center. You can see a lot of people that look like you that are successful. You can see that they still were able to, you know, kind of push back gentrification of the neighborhoods So, what happens is once these neighborhoods, after Jim Crow and our neighborhoods were decimated, they kind of pushed us out in order to take that land. But they had to let it depreciate first and let it wait. They had to wait a couple of generations for us to forget what we had, so that the youth could forget and not remember what they had and push them out. And so then the elders that remembered would continually share. That's why elders always share about the good old time. Now, they ain't talking about make America great again, but they're talking about, hey, I remember a time when we had this. And they do that so that you remember. They do it so that you remember what we had, because when they say it's a gift. Now, what I've had some elders say to me is, just last week I went to a conference and an elder came up and said, man, he said, I'm sorry. He said, we dropped the ball. He said, we screwed up. We got had. We did not know. And we should have. He straight up said it. Norman said, my hometown, Black Indians. Yes, Black Indians. You know what, Norman? When it comes to that, and this is some of the things that we're kind of not seeing. So after Jim Crow, they went out, they came back, and I'll address that. Came back. It was in the suburbs, because after that, after Jim Crow, and we were not stuck into a Black area, and we fought hard to fought against the political slavery and chattel slavery after the Emancipation Proclamation. Then we wanted to get out and have things that everybody else did. We wanted to not assimilate, but we wanted to kind of just be. We wanted to move in whatever neighborhood we wanted to. And so what happened was we got bombed. We got all of these efforts to keep us away. And so this is called white flight. So they kept moving back, making it more expensive, and creating policies to keep us there, but not there. There's still communities that on the paper, on the books, that Black folk can't get a place in. And you might say, well, such and such is there. Yeah, if you wealthy and you rich, they'll let you in. So they can get that money. They'll let you, come on. Oh, I'm not Black, I'm OJ. Okay, all right? So they put you like that, and then what they do is they go back in and they buy up that area. Or that's where they put the highway. So they take the Black land, which is actually the best land that's available, because they did not know what they had. They considered it to be the bad lands, but it's actually the best lands. And then they go back and take it because it's centrally located, right? And then they make it into lofts and do all this special stuff. And then they price it up and then they make the credit checks and all this stuff, the acceptable racism, the institutional and structural racism that's embedded in the history of all we do. I mean, you look at the Constitution, they don't say one time does it say slavery. But everybody and their mama know they were talking about slavery. And that's the reason that 700,000 people lost their lives, all their sons. And then you got these old folks, didn't get no counseling, and still teaching their kids and going on. And then you had a whole portion of them that never accepted that they lost. They thought that it was the lost cause, lords of the lost cause. And so they created the Knights of Pythagoras, sons and daughters of the Confederacy. And they continued to do exactly what they were doing beforehand, but they just stopped fighting. That's what we're dealing with now. And then a lot of the vanquished powers, the World War I, World War II, Germany, a lot of these places, they sent in Tories and different people to infiltrate, to have their own allegiance, and they're here. So neo-Nazi, alt-right, all these, they're here. And then they infiltrated the jails, the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex, and they infiltrated the executive branch and police unions and different stuff like that. So not saying that everybody's bad, but if you spend any of your time plotting the demise of black families and black life, then you're evil. So Fayetteville, beautiful stuff. One of the last things on that, since Norman said something, before Christopher Columbus came to America, well, he never came to America. He was down in the Caribbean, and Amerigo Vespucci, who Columbus worked for, because it was not just Columbus, but Columbus's brother, and then they had a black man that was their navigator, who was Moorish, who actually knew that the world was not flat, because they had already did it. They had already been over there. See, in the water, in the ocean, when you get out in a boat in the ocean, once you get past the waves and you get into a groove, it'll take you. You put your sail up, you're gone. It'll take you straight across. It's like a railroad under the water. You've seen it in the movie, what's the movie, Finding Dory, cartoon. And you see the turtles going all fast, same thing in the ocean. And so our ancestors found out a long time ago. And one of the toughest things is the white folk, they couldn't handle the sun. It would bake the brain and bake all the good. And so they couldn't do it. But we could, because we had the melanin, right? We were the original explorers. So the reason I say that is when they got to America, what they found was black folk, whole black tribes of not Native American Indians, but African Indians. We were African. You could see it in the Olmec and all these ancient civilizations. They created the statues like black folk. They had this nose, right? Forehead. It was black folk. It wasn't Indians. Now, there were some what we consider to be Indians, like now. But what happened was anybody that was black inside of those native tribes, they started with the Pugo. They wiped out the Pugo because the Pugo was really the Pugo. If they would have been successful that third time, they would have wiped out the colonies, because they wiped out the first two colonies that came over. They wiped them out dead. And then that Mayflower and them came over, and then they had them rifles. And so they were able to go after them, and they annihilated them. And the Mohicans, remember Last of the Mohicans? Well, the Mohicans fought back. They didn't just bow down with no Thanksgiving, man. They was going to war. We heard about you. We heard that the white man was coming, and that they had all these powerful things, and weapons, and lightning. They could control lightning. And so it's part of the prophecy. But there were whole black tribes in St. Louis, in Missouri. There was it was almost like the New York of Turtle Island back in the day. They had the big mounds, and it was over 3 million people there. It was a black tribe in Turtle Island, which is what they call the United States before it was the United States. That's what they call it, Turtle Island. And so the most advanced civilization on the northern hemisphere and in the southern were African tribes. But that would not fit. That didn't fit with the narrative. So what they did was, and this is what we want to see it in our history books, what they did was they took the dark skin and shipped them to Europe. Slavery went that way first. They would take them that way and show them. And then it was demand for it. So slavery went that way. Slavery went from Arab into Africa that way. Right? And in all of those countries, there was the original inhabitants were African. All of them. Ancient, past ancient. So what happened was after that, they didn't want their hands on it. You know, all the biggest cities in Europe, London, Rome, Bristol, all of those cities that are big now were slave centers. But they didn't want their hands on it. So they said, you know what, y'all handle this. And so the British and the Portuguese and other ones were commissioned to handle it. And they said, we got it. And that's what they did. Then they, with the help of England, helped out, basically England helped out Spain to attack the Songhai Empire in Africa, Mali, modern day Mali, in Timbuktu, and they sacked that. Timbuktu had the first university, had the biggest libraries, had incredible wealth, incredible. But that whole continent was called Ethiopia. The Atlantic Ocean was called the Ethiopian Ocean. So they basically changed the history. So when we talk about Black and Indian, when they start shipping slaves to the new land, it was after they had shipped out everyone dark skinned back so they wouldn't know the landscape. And then they shipped them in. We have a report on our page that we talk about a lot of that stuff, and this is a lot of the research that we do. So just to finalize this thought, so once that happened, the original native nations, what they called the First Nations, was the Cherokee, the Creek, the Chickasaw, the Seminole. So some of those ones that they called the First Nations, the reason that they call them First Nations is that they, out of the Apache, the Comanche, all the other ones, the First Nations actually assimilated. They wanted to assimilate, and they wanted to own slaves. And they had slaves. Some of them accepted people to come in and be a part of the community and would kind of let them go through. But many of them had their own slaves. And they intermingled. So they let it happen. So you can see the history of that, because every one of those First Nations, the Chickasaw never lost a battle. They worked with the British. They worked with the British. The British actually gave them weapons, and the Chickasaw never lost a battle because they were some of the toughest brothers out. I mean, they was tough. You know, if you got an AR, you're not gonna go down. It's not gonna happen. But after the Civil War, they were the last ones that were forced to give up their slaves, aka freedmen. So the Black Indians that were never accepted and never given the indigenous culture and separated from culture based on their pigmentation and the melanin in their skin just a little bit darker, you would be put as a freedman just if you were dark skinned. So we Indians and Africans are the same tribe, that we were divided in order to have better control. Because it happened in Bacon's Rebellion. Bacon's Rebellion, the Indians, the Africans, indigenous Africans, and the poor whites all teamed up with a few of the wealthy to try to take over the rich. And they said that'll never happen again, so we need to create racism to break it all down. So that's the facts when we talk about Black Indians, the First Nations. That's a conversation that I've tried to have with a lot of my Native brothers and sisters, and they don't want to have that conversation right now, but it's coming. It's coming. The number one city that, when it comes to Black marriage, by percentage of married Black African American, 15 and up, in in metropolitan areas with a black population of at least 50,000. The number one is really right down the street from where I'm at now. It's Killeen, Temple, Texas at 44%. Now, I had to look at some of the things that they're doing just to see why. Number one, they have a military. So they have military. And it's a vibrant military. And, you know, there's a lot of African-American leadership. There's a lot of Black, Negro leadership that's there. And so a lot of people are attracted to it. You know, they have a vibrant social scene that's there. And the wider community, they have kind of an economic, you know, they have some economics where they've been able to kind of be there so long and have social capital and be in positions of power, so where, and they actually pass the baton, they pass the torch. They don't just be in a position of power and then lose it to the next generation. They've been nurturing it. So that's some, it's a wonderful community. If there's anyone that's out there that's from Killeen and Temple, Texas, definitely let us know. But also, it's just really focused on family. You'll see a lot of communities now that are focused on the family, and they try to keep those values and keep family, and you know, that's good. That's good in a way, but also it's frustrating, because ultimately, if you try to just create that and you don't have the other parts as well, you lose money as a community, you lose money as a city, you're going other places, and you're not able to socialize. So you're in the same place, but you don't know each other. You don't have a village. So I just wanted to share that. I don't see that you guys had any points, but we got Norman is there. We're going to actually start. Just want to give you some updates before I jump off. I want to give you some updates. We actually are starting to. We got a brand new logo. We got some incredible. We're going to actually create a group so that we can have better dialogue. You know, there's 3,700 members, so we're going to actually start a group and start a more action initiatives, because really, for one of our things that we wanted to do, and that the founder Akeem Deshay wanted to do, was be neutral, present the facts without in a way that was without any drama, that was professional, and to let people make their own decision based on having the best facts and numbers possible. We just got a whole base of new numbers and facts about Black folk. I mean, we got more data than Nielsen, and there's kind of an open source where a lot of them are sharing it, so we're just eating it up. And from the data, it's actually showing us some incredible opportunities for all of us. And so with our skill set, we're going to actually start doing more action and helping in that way. And so we have a group that we're going to be calling Only Move Forward. And that's the only direction that we're going. We're not going back. The only reason that we're going back is to look at what we've done, learn from it, and then chart a path forward. That's it. That's the only reason. But the key is, if you don't know where you came from, how can you chart a path to the future? If you don't know the past, it's really difficult to have an appreciation of the future. The more that we have knowledge of self, of who we are, not who you are as like just an individual, but who you are, who you stand for, who are you? When you look at your last name, where does that connect to? What tribe are you connected to in the motherland or in here? Where are your roots? So that's the only reason to look back. But then from there, you find a way to see the collective and then you move forward. So we're going to be starting that. We're going to revamp the website. It's beautiful. It's worked for the last 10 years, but we got some stuff. We got some visuals. We're going to be working with some great photographers and designers to do that. Got a good friend of mine, and actually I have a team that's there that's helping as well. So God bless. We went through the top 10 cities for Black marriage. The bottom city is Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with 21%, and the top is Killeen, Temple, Texas, with 44%. But even when you look at marriage, there's a lot of things that's connected to it. Ultimately, I'll try to explain. I've been married since I've been married twice. Once I was married for 12 years, and she told me that she was not Coretta Scott King, and I was like, I accept that. I said, I am a lot. I get it, and I'm not changing. So we might as well go ahead and do this. And then I found my Empress, and that's her in the back right there. You see the picture in the back. That's us. So, and she's incredible, fabulous, wonderful. And so the gift of marriage is that when we, in the scripture I say it's till death do us part, and that's not really accurate. That's not totally accurate, because what happens is this: when you find someone that balances you, you don't want to find somebody just like you, because it's hard to grow that way. If you find someone just like you, and y'all just like what you like, and then you in this thing, whenever you change and start growing, and that person look at you, they're gonna be like, this ain't the person that I married. So if you find someone that balances you, and you guys are both here, and you're not all locked in, and you're here, each got a circle. And in this little part right here, that's how you're both connected in this part. But both of you are separate. Both of you are committed to giving 100% to the relationship. Both of you are committed to submitting to each other. Wives, submit to your husband, and be submissive, but also husbands, submit to your wives. Make sure that you listen, you honor them. Don't have no side chick. Take care of your legacy and your seed, because that's what's going to be here when you're dead and gone. Make sure that you leave them some money, inheritance, so they're not starting off broke, so they don't have to do a GoFundMe to bury you, right? But ultimately, you create your tradition, your culture, you create your thing that you hand to them, and that's what continues to go on this earth. The mind is powerful. Just when the body dies, the mind continues. When the body dies, the heart continues. The emotion, the personality continues. When you give up your ghost and you die, and your body goes to the earth, your spirit is immortal. But then there's the soul, which is all of these functions or functionality of your soul. Because really, we're souls. We're temporary bodies, eternal souls. Well, immortal. You become eternal when you believe. You got to have belief. Because if you don't remember God on earth, He's not going to remember you in heaven. Right? You got to remember Him, praise Him. The purpose is to know and love God. So ultimately, when you look at marriage, it's not a state institution. They may have taken it over, but it's not. Marriage is a divine institution that was given for us for our well-being. Even before there was any state, that was something that was given to the first two human beings, or at least the first two that we know about, to be fruitful and multiply. And to, that's evolved. And so that purpose in that marriage is to create a bond and a union that you'll even leave your household and leave your mother and your father, and you'll go do you and create your own. You'll still honor them, but you're going to do your thing. You honor them because they gave you life, and they're only going to be here for so long. They might have a chance to, whatever that thing that they gave you, they've given it to you because they want you to create it, take that and create it and do it better. And many of us, what they gave us was, it's not good for now, but it was good for them. You know how the way that we was raised was good for us. It's incredible. It made us who we are, but it was some trauma. It was tragic, right? It was tough, but it made us who we are. And so you don't want to have no entitled kid. So with our kids, we need to also take that thing, take out those good parts, add some more good stuff to it, and then get the stamp from the grandparents. They'd be like, you know what? You a good father. Y'all good. You better than we was. Stamp of approval. Dap, high five. They got it. We've gotten that from our parents. They said, you know what, you guys are much parents than we were. And that's what we're supposed to be. And our kids, the same thing. So we got to give them the good stuff. Not just the statistics, not just the history, but make sure that we take care of the basics. And that's just on the individual level. Now, our communities were broken. Doesn't mean it has to stay that way. I've had many people say, you know what, man, the Black community, you can't trust them and you can't do, you can't, they won't do this and they won't do this. And I was like, well, complaining about it's not going to do much. I said, but show them how to make money. I said, I don't have that experience. I said, when I talk to young people, I try to build into them and listen to them and then help them, then give them resources to tackle the challenges and hit their goals. Same with my kids. So the last thing out of marriage, and I'll end it here, is that once you give up your ghost and you've done all that you can, and you've passed the baton, and you've carried the torch, and you lit someone else's flame, and you have done everything, and you're done with this house, because your Father in heaven has many mansions. And he said no houses, they got many mansions. And you give up that ghost, now guess what? If you can make it off earth with a companion that knows you truly and deeply, and you actually communicated and was honest. See, love is not about sex. It's not about a lot of these superficial things. Love is about helping that person to grow closer to themselves, but also to grow closer to God. That's love. Is you invest and you help, and there's no depletion. It's there. And so this relationship, this union, does not end with death. So do you want to go into eternity by your damn self, or do you want to share it with someone that balances you, that helps you to be all that you are and greater, that's trustworthy, that's loyal, that's loving, that's funny, that's you invest into those people, because that person is going to be with you. And so even when you get to the next round, it's not the death do us part. It's through all the next things that we do, through all the worlds. And you can look at the universe and see how huge it is. You think we're the only ones here? No, and they ain't gonna visit either, as long as we kill everything that walk. So, I just wanted to share that, we're gonna come back and do lives at least once a week on different things that we find in the data. And we are here to serve you guys. We're gonna, like I said, doing a lot of upgrades. You'll see it actually by Monday. We'll have a lot of that stuff done. And please share, click like, follow the group. Go to the website, blackdemographics.com, bookmark it, visit it often, share it with people. Help us out. We're not making money doing this. We're doing this out of love, but we are going to start offering more. One of the things that we offer now is we have a full report that we have 3 different ones. It's $2.99, $5.99, $7.99. All the data that you can actually look at that if you want to make change in your community. If you are a social influencer, if you are somebody that wants to create change in your community and you have been having a tough time, let us know. That's our gift. That's what I specialize in, is reforming cities. So let us know, use this as a resource, and let's get it. Let's do it. And let's continue. W.E.B. Du Bois said something I thought was really powerful. He said that each community should have a 50-year plan. I've seen communities that have never even had an annual meeting as a collective, a Black town hall meeting. So the reality, even though it's sobering, it lets us know that there's some incredible opportunities, and it's there for us. And while we have 45 in the White House for however long he's going to be there until the impeachment, let's focus on getting our house in order. Dr. King said that he had an issue with us, assimilating us or bringing us into a burning house. And that's fine. I mean, we know fire in the house, we know what to do. Put it out. And then remodel. And then sell it and then go move somewhere else. So, really, it's all love. Thank you so much. I am Tyree Byndom, one of the members of Black Demographics. Much love to you, and I'm signing out. Peace.